Hello, this is Peter Woolfolk, producer and host of the Public Relations Review podcast. When I conceived this program, my idea was to provide public relations practitioners with a wide variety of solid, useful information and guidance from public relations professionals across America. And we are doing that. I will continue to cover important topics such as crisis communications and artificial intelligence and other such important topics. But I will also address other issues such as diversity in public relations, marketing to women, public relations trends, various data concerns, and much more. From time to time, I will also invite vendors of public relations products on to help you better understand how these products can improve your efficiency and your effectiveness. You will learn a lot from our podcast, so thank you for listening, and please inform your colleagues about the Public Relations Review podcast and continue listening. Thank you so very much.
Welcome. This is the Public Relations Review podcast, a program to discuss the many facets of public relations with seasoned professionals, educators, authors, and others. Now, here is your host, Peter Woolfolk.
As many of you know, the Hispanic market in the U.S. is the fastest growing segment of our population. As of 2016, approximately 55 million Hispanics lived in the U.S. By 2060, the number is expected to grow to 27%, and they have serious buying power. In 2012, Hispanics spent about $2.2 billion in online commerce alone. The total U.S. Hispanic market has a buying power of nearly $1.3 trillion. That is larger than the economies of all but 13 countries in the world. Does your organization have the know-how to put together a program to make marketing to Hispanic target populations successful? Well, my guest today can handle that for you. Arminda Figueroa is a recognized leader in traditional and multicultural direct and digital marketing fields. Prior to launching Latin2Latin, Mindy was project director for Scholastic Media and oversaw the launch of the children's TV series Maya and Miguel, the #1 new TV show for kids on PBS. She previously has held senior marketing positions at the Bravo Group, the Young Rubicon Agency, and Univision.com, Verizon, and Anheuser-Busch. Arminda is a frequent presenter at industry seminars and conferences and is a board member of the Hispanic Federation of New York, and among others. She has been recognized by El Diario La Prensa and is one of the 50 most influential Latinas. Please welcome Mindy Figueroa from the delightful city of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, for joining us today. Mindy, how are you today?
How are you, Peter? I'm doing fantastic, and thank you so much for the nice introduction, and I'm delighted to be in your show. Thank you so much.
Well, as I set this up, you know, the Hispanic population obviously is the fastest growing segment of our population, and they have tremendous buying power. So many organizations and groups want to know how can we effectively reach that market. So that's why I ask you, what advice do you give to organizations and clients that you deal with as to how to go about being successful there?
Absolutely. It all starts with homework. We are just as any other segment in the population or a segment that a company wants to establish a relationship with, where it has to be a win-win situation. I always compare this to dating. You know, when you date, you take care of understanding the other person's wants and needs, their nuances, their likes, and so forth. So it is utilizing the same analogy to the Latino market or to any other niche market that any corporation wants to establish a relationship with. We should take this as a dating game. So it starts with understanding the insights about the Latino market. Yes, demographics are super important, and you mentioned some of the critical numbers, which makes this not a good to-do type of project. It is the necessity of any corporation that wants to establish growth opportunities and accelerate the growth into this growing segment of the population. The second aspect of that is data. Data is important. understanding what are the numbers, understanding, where everything starts. So that's how we came about a tool called Latin Ready Assessment. And basically, we went around asking some of our corporate clients and other organizations, are you Latin ready? Are you ready to establish a relationship with this segment of the population? And it starts in 3 different buckets. It starts, what we identify was operationally, how are you ready to speak the language or to communicate in a relevant way with this organization? That could start from your 800 number. That could start with easy as your web page, your collateral material, your understanding of your sales force, if it's bilingual or represents the target that you want to go after. Then it's the financial aspect of it. Many times, believe it or not, Peter, I was in boardrooms where we were saying, we got to do something about the Hispanic market. And I don't know why this number keeps coming up. Oh, we have $15,000 for a pilot project. It's I don't know where people came about with that number. Is that $15,000? Okay. Oh, yes. And in a month, we need to see results. Really? So with that in mind, that's how we started with the Latin Ready Assessment. And it's a proprietary tool that we developed and we packaged in terms of understanding how we could help organizations tackle in a very programmatic and pragmatic way with this audience. So the third aspect of that column, so the tool basically takes 3 different pillars: organizational, operational, financial, and emotional. So in the financial, we have to have a commitment of certain dollars in order to make this successful. Any project in any organization is assigned a team, is assigned an ambassador, is assigned a project leader, and a budget to it, and a period of time to make it happen. And then the emotional aspect of it is it's what basically translates into the communication. But that communication is both internal and external. One of the things that we find through the tool is that there's a disconnect with what the C-level think about strategically about these segments or this niche market. And believe me, it applies to other niche markets as well, not just the Latino market. And what the middle management and what the people in the trenches believe they're doing. Usually there's a huge gap. And so in this tool, we're able to identify what is perception about the C-level versus the mid-level managers and then the people in the trenches. And sometimes the people in the trenches are more in tune with what's going on in the marketplace with this particular segment than the people at the C-level or the people at the mid-level. And then when we identify that, we basically not only bring it up to their attention, but we're able to map out a way to close the gap so that we have a unified front and we're able to create both an emotional connection with the project internally and as well as externally. Make sense?
It does. A question that I have is, as we move forward, do you begin to segment the Hispanic market? Maybe there's someone from Mexico, there might be some group from Chile or others. Is that a big consideration?
Absolutely. Dealing with people that are from the community, like myself, we understand these nuances and we understand the differences and the commonalities between the different nationalities. There's 23 different Hispanic nationalities, 23 different countries from Latin America, for South America and Central America. And if you sum everybody under the Hispanic label, that will include also people from Spain. So taking that in consideration, what we try to do as smart marketers is look at the commonalities, focus on the commonalities of how we can convey a message that is going to be understood and is going to be embraced by all nationalities within the Hispanic market. But keeping in the back of your head that for some groups, there may be certain elements that resonate more than others. And the idea here is to become culturally relevant. So taking that in consideration, for instance, in the Hispanic market across the board is a commonality. We usually start with depending on the audience, but for the most part, we start with the form of respect. Usted, Mr. or Mrs. It's a way of us showing respect to the segment. We sometimes also call it a way to get licensed to market. How do we tap into some organizations within the Latino market that are relevant, are providing social services, activity support, community activism, and so forth, that we can rally those leaders and understand and develop a dialogue and understand what are the needs of that community. That is very important in the Latino marketing community, the same way that is important in the African American community to engage the leaders of the religious organizations, right, for activation. So yes, indeed, you take that in consideration. You need to know that, we are going to be very different. There may be a common ground of language, some heritage elements coming from the fact that, we all, one way or the other, were affected by the conquistadores or Spain influence in our countries of origin, and that, the new Americas represented new ways of dynamics that we have to take in consideration.
Now, do you still find organizations that try to put together Hispanic programs that are simply replicas of other things that they have done without making any changes at all, and maybe just ask, well, just translate this into Spanish and let's go with it?
Unfortunately, there is still that happening in the marketplace. People, of course, everything's about the money and everything's about cutting corners, but you can cut corners in a way, and I'm calling cut corners very loosely. It's about engaging the right person that has the knowledge and the experience in the marketplace in order to show you the path of how to better take that basic product information and convert it into something that is current, that is culturally relevant, and that is going to be transcreated, and that's the word that we use, transcreated into the proper way where it's going to be meaningful to the Latino that you're trying to go after. So yes, the quick answer is they're still going that, but at the same time, there's been a huge movement towards organizations understanding that they can go with a cookie cutter to their segments. And in general, we're knowing that personalized marketing is the way to go, with anything from artificial intelligence, predicting behaviors and so forth, no matter whether you're Hispanic, African American, or just part of the general market space. Personalized marketing, it is the way it's going to be, and predicting that particular need. So I think what it does is like the multicultural marketing component gets accentuated, and by utilizing AI as part of the predicting factor, by including the cultural content and the cultural context.
That's interesting. Could you give me a little bit more information, as you said, the AI piece of it, because I think that's a growing trend. How is that going to be used to help people make decisions in their marketing plans? Absolutely.
Hispanics overall, the language is one factor, but there's other different elements that make you a Hispanic: traditions, culture, food, and so forth. If you have tools that allows you to identify and predict a Latino with a surname of, let's say my surname Figueroa, but I'm consuming English media versus Spanish media, I'm going digitally into other tools, and I'm searching online activity that is going to be culturally relevant, and I'm going to go to a particular event because there's heritage, there's traditions, and so forth. All that data starts being collected, and then you're able to better profile the target that you want to go after, and then serve up the type of activities and messaging that they want to receive. So I think that we move forward into the digital sphere, and we're going to be able to be more targeted with the kind of messaging that people want to receive, and they opt in to receive because that is totally relevant to them. So I think that's where it's going. It could be different ways of being manifested, but I think in general, broad terms, that's where we're heading.
Further, in terms of getting buy-in, I think that was one of the earlier issues that you found important, is that organizations perhaps need to get the buy-in in the C-suite for events and activities really to be successful. Would you suggest that as well?
Yes, you definitely has to start from the top, but it needs to be trickled down through the different layers of the organization, because the C-level, it doesn't execute. It's the people below them that are going to execute and believe in making this happen. So when the C-level provides the direction and the approval, if you will, for budgets for the three areas that we talked about internally. He or she is walking the talk. There's operational systems in place, and there is a financial commitment to make this happen. Then you need a champion, and the champion needs to understand that this needs to be measured in the same way that any other initiative in the business will be. There needs to be KPIs, there needs to be milestones, there needs to be the right team around that ambassador or sponsor that is going to make this happen in a very successful way. I've seen it happen in various organizations from Scholastic to Anheuser-Busch and others, and it's critical. But the most important thing is we have to, the people that are going to make this happen are going to be the people mid-level and below in terms of execution. So, but it needs to first of all, it needs to be a strategy developed very clear and crisp from the top with the necessary resources so that it can be then manifested and be successful. And I've seen many successful stories with organizations that follow that protocol.
One of the other ways, of course, of getting people to get involved and seeing that it's successful is to look at their competitors. Is that part of your strategy to say, well, fine, you are in this particular business, look at what they're doing and how successful they are. We can help you begin to get to that level as well.
Absolutely. This is part of the part of Latin Rate Assessment is actually doing what we call a competitive environmental scan. And we looked at best practices, we looked at case studies, we look at the entity as it stands within its ecosystem. And it's important to identify that. It's important to recognize where you position yourself versus others. And we're not going to be all the same. We are going to be very different, and maintaining that personality to convey a message is critical. Your own voice. That each brand has to have their own voice within the Latino market. It doesn't mean that you have to be like brand X or brand Z, but you need to be aware of what they're doing. And if they're not doing anything, you have a great opportunity to corner the market. If they're doing some activities, how can you be different and get a piece of that market too?
Well, because of what you call Latin Ready Assessment, I thought that was so unique. Would you speak a little bit more about the program that you have and perhaps how our listeners could access that?
Right, absolutely. We basically, it's a quantitative and qualitative tool. We have developed an algorithm that allows us to basically portray it's a snapshot where each individual is within the organization. We take a sample of about 30 individuals from the C-level, mid-level, all the way down to the trenches who are having a direct relationship with the customer, and we send them a survey. It's a link. It's customized to each individual organization. And the survey is both quantitative. On the quantitative side, there's a weighted questions, and they come out in a spectrum. And it's a Latin Ready Assessment spectrum. It's anonymous, but then we're able to look, like I mentioned before, at the operational level, where those employees are versus the mid-level versus the C-level. And we see the gap between them as how they're communicating, whether they're not seeing the same strategy, right? So we adjust that. Then on the qualitative side, we're able to understand, what do they believe about the organization or not. Let me just say one thing. When we ask C-level people, mid-level people, or people at the trenches, what is the contribution in terms of revenue of the Hispanic market to your total bottom line, and they don't know the answer, that is scary, very scary. So that is one question that is in all of our surveys. Why? Because if you don't know what this market brings to your bottom line, first of all, you're missing the boat. Number two, that obviously opens up a view of where, the C-level might be interested in growing the market, but if they don't know what the market potential is, so there's no strategy behind it, right? So when we start working with some of the organization, that is a basic question we start asking. If you haven't determined what is the contribution revenue, what is the cost to do business with this group, and what do they bring to the table, that's the basic questions to this tool. Then after the tool, we surveyed the 30 people. We obviously provided a very thorough report on it, both quantitative and qualitative. And we provide a roadmap. We identify the gaps and we say, okay, this is what you're saying, this is what we didn't hear. So we are able to bring different angles of insights that they may not know. And then we put recommendations short-term, mid-term, and long-term. And that also allows us to put a roadmap in play in terms of the how they can move the needle. And everything has to be measured in terms of what is the short-term, what is going to bring to the bottom line. Mid-term, what is going to bring, how are we going to move sales or services sold, or patients that we bring to the table if it's a hospital, or students that we enroll if it's a higher education organization, which is two of the areas that we work with tremendously. So that's a report, and that basically becomes the go-to-market plan, and we turn it over to the client. The client can decide to implement it on their own, or we become the agency to project manage and to execute the entire plan. So the relationship can be, short-term or long-term.
Well, as comprehensive as that package is, do you pretty much concentrate around the Fort Lauderdale area, or are you just open to going anywhere in the nation?
No, we happen to. I always say to my clients, Fort Lauderdale is where we have the headquarters, and it's where I usually sleep. But I travel everywhere in the country, and I just came from Houston, Texas. We had a wonderful project going on there about Latina women in the workforce. It's a research, pretty much elements of the Latin reassessment that we implementing there, and we're going next to Chicago. Our clients are anywhere in the United States. Is people that, organizations rather, that want to establish a relationship with the Latino market, and they want experts from the Latino market to provide them the assistance to do that. We also work with Latino-owned organizations that are based here in the United States or are based outside of the United States, and they're looking to expand in the United States within the Latino market and outside the Latino market. And we've been working with various different organizations, especially recently from Puerto Rico after Hurricane Maria hit the island, and many established organizations there looked at the opportunity to grow or to follow those Puerto Ricans that were displaced because of Hurricane Maria. And now they're being very successful establishing their brands here in the Florida market as well as other markets across the nation. So we do both, and it's nationwide.
Just a quick question, because you brought up the business about the hurricanes and so forth. Do you do any business with the federal government?
I don't do business with the federal government directly. We have done a project with the USDA to do MyPlate. It's a subcontractor of another general market agency. Right now, we're working very closely with the sections of the Puerto Rican government to help them, whether they are exporting their businesses to the United States or to bring potential business opportunities to those organizations here in the United States that want to take advantage of tax incentives in Puerto Rico, and they want to, and also grants that are available for rebuilding the island and sustainability.
Let me say, Mindy, this has been a very, very fascinating conversation. Sort of in closing, have I missed anything that you think listeners should know about being effective with the Hispanic population?
Abdul, I just want to reiterate what you just said at the beginning. The numbers speak for themselves. This is not a matter of if, this is a matter of when your organization is going to get involved with the Latino market. This is the tremendous growth. Latinos once they establish a relationship with a particular brand, they tend to be very loyal, and it could be a very rewarding opportunity in terms monetarily. They were in a business space to develop a relationship with the Latino market.
Well, in closing, is there a way that listeners can get in touch with you?
Oh, absolutely. Latin2Latin.com or L2Lmarketing.com are ways to reach out to us, or the number, they can call me or email me. My email is Mindy@Latin2Latin.com, and if not, the telephone number is 954-3 888-764-4800. And thank you, Peter, for the opportunity to talk about something that I'm very passionate about.
Well, Mindy, thank you for joining us, because I think it's a very, very important subject. With the fast-growing Hispanic population, folks need to know how to prepare themselves to effectively and efficiently go after the Hispanic marketplace. So let me once again thank you so very, very much for joining the Public Relations Review. And please tell your friends and join us again for the very next edition of the Public Relations Review.
This podcast is produced by Communication Strategies, an award-winning public relations and public affairs firm headquartered in Nashville, Tennessee. Thank you for joining us.